The Memory Corridor.
Hello Assassins, Gustav, also known as Gargudon here, and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Movie Special Edition episode of The Memory Corridor. As always, this podcast is hosted by me, and for each episode I have a guest with me who will be discussing a topic regarding Assassin's Creed with me. As mentioned, today is an Assassin's Creed Movie Special Edition, but to have a specific topic, we have got game influences and movie sequels. Now, for the first time on the podcast, we have got several guests instead of the usual one guest. Now, for today's guests, we have got, for the second time on the podcast, my friend Cole96, and as debuting guest stars, we have got my fratellos, Loomer and RinoTheBouncer. Say hi, everyone.
Hey. Hello.
Right.
Hi, guys.
Yeah. Now, just to those who might not know about Loomer and RinoTheBouncer, tell the audience a bit about yourselves and the things you do here in the Assassin's Creed community. Let's just start with you, Loom.
Okay, hi. So I'm Loomer. I've been doing Assassin's Creed videos for I guess almost 6 years now, and it's just a variety of stuff from the multiplayer back when the series had it to these days. I do a lot of stuff with podcasts and interviews with the development team mainly, and I just started a Assassin's Creed book club a few months ago called Assassin's Read, and so I do that every month on my channel as well.
So you're right at home considering this is a podcast after all.
Yeah, definitely.
Alright. And RinoTheBouncer, tell a bit about yourself, perhaps.
Hey everyone. First of all, I'm a huge fan of the Assassin's Creed franchise since the very first installment, and in 2014, specifically on December 21st, I created the Codex fan site for Assassin's Creed, and my first objective that made me create this website was to decipher the overarching narrative and the story of the games, the stuff specifically related to the first civilization, to modern day, to the stuff that we usually don't see much of in the games lately. So I saw many people struggling to understand every point of this of the story, and many people unfortunately did not know much and they wanted to know so much. So I thought I'd decipher everything for them and gather everything from every source, from the official encyclopedias, from the comics, the books, the games, the special files of the games, and all bring them together in articles and soon to be videos. And so this was my main goal, and I'm glad to have gotten some good audience who enjoys the articles. And soon I will be starting my own web show, the great part. That's of awesome. My website, the Codex. And I'm lucky to be a star player and a brand ambassador too. And of course, I'm excited for the movie.
Yeah, that's awesome. So as you can hear, Loom and Rhino are some pretty awesome dudes and does awesome things here in the community. And should you be interested in staying up to date on all this awesome stuff, links to all three guests' social media pages will be in the description below. And the reason for Mr. Colin Blackett not giving a description of himself is, as I said, because he is a reappearing guest. And should you really be interested in hearing about him, you can listen to episode 2 of the podcast here from September, or even better, check out some of his social media. But now, without any more guest introductions, it is time to kick off today's special edition topic discussion, so let's just get right to it. So, the Assassin's Creed movie is an Assassin's Creed installment highly anticipated by almost every fan of the franchise. The hype built by Ubisoft is amazing, and the road to the film is almost over. Turning the universe we all know and love from the Assassin's Creed games into a full-length film starring the one and only Michael Fassbender is something I'm definitely excited to see the result of. Not only in terms of how it's going to work out for the Assassin's Creed universe, but the movie industry as well. When I say that, I specifically mean I'm excited to see how this is possibly going to change the whole video game movie genre. Now, today we're going to dig deeper into the aftermath of the release of the film, the footage we've seen so far, influences from the games and the film, possible movie sequels, and possibly with much more on top of that. So, just before we kick this off, do any of you have anything to say or ask?
Nothing from me.
Alright.
Say, thanks for having me back on the podcast.
No problem, dude.
Community projects.
Alright. Now, just before we get the topic discussion in the air, this time around, instead of me having made all the questions, most of us have prepared a few, as we, this time around, are several guests. Now, first we're going to discuss my questions, and then I think my friends Loom and Rhino have some questions we're going to talk about. But with all intros and such out of the way, let's just get straight to the questions I have. So, my first question for you people is, what are your opinions on the new carriage chase clip from the Assassin's Creed movie? And let's just start with you, Carl.
So I thought it looked really interesting, the actual video, but for me it was very quick. Like, for example, there's obviously going to be spoilers in this, but there's a bit where Aguilar uses his gauntlet to almost like a rope launcher kind of thing, and the way it's shot, it's extremely quick. So I was going through like freeze framing it to see exactly what had happened, and it's a very quick clip. So, but I enjoyed the music in it. For example, it's Jed Kurzel doing the music for this, who's Justin Kurzel's brother, and I thought it was really well executed. So I really enjoyed the clip, but it was very quick.
Yeah, awesome. And did you have anything to this, Loomer?
Yeah, so I did just watch this.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, I like it overall. There were a couple moments that seemed really weirdly edited to me. Like, I don't know, it's like when they do like the really fast like zoom from the back to the front of like the whole chase, and then like when it might be Maria, I think, who jumps, and it shows like from a person perspective. Like, I don't know why, but those things stuck out to me really weirdly. I don't know. I think it's gonna be interesting to see how Justin Kurzel kind of handles the action scenes and everything in this movie, because I watched Macbeth, which is pretty much the same group of people, right? Like, same director as Michael Fassbender, Marion, and like there's a little bit of. I mean, there's really not much action there. It's a different style of movie, and so
definitely.
I don't really have a sense for his action scenes yet, so we'll have to see.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought it was a pretty good clip. I was surprised at the rope launcher type thing at the end too. But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it seems cool.
And Rhino, do you have anything to this question?
Yeah, I think that this whole scene was like really short, so I don't think we can just, I don't think we can judge the movie according to the scene, but I thought it was well executed, and I loved how the colors just resemble the movie 300, and it makes it feel more epic. But one thing that stood out for me was when they said, "Look after the boy" or something like that. So there seemed to be a little boy who's obviously important here. So I wonder if that will play any part in the story. So, like, the boy seems to be someone important.
Definitely.
So I'm actually looking forward to seeing more about that,
Definitely. I mean, to get to my side of this question, I mean, not only do I think this carriage chase clip is pretty awesome, but also the other one we saw with the Animus, where he enters the Animus. I think the footage we've seen so far, it looks promising. I'm definitely excited to see more. And as you just said, Rhino, it's going to be awesome to see if it's going to be exciting to see if this boy in let's call him that is going to play a major part in the story, if he's perhaps a maybe a key element in the story. That's definitely going to be exciting. I also get what you mean with that. It's pretty fast paced and very fast editing. But as I think you also said, Loom, I think it's gonna mean that the action sequences are gonna be something special. So yeah, I mean, to wrap it up, like short and simple, I just think the footage we've seen so far is awesome, and personally, I think the Animus clip is better. What do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, sure.
Definitely. I mean,
I haven't seen the Animus clip, but yeah, like I haven't really had any issues with any of the other action scenes like I've seen like in trailers and stuff. So it's really just kind of like looking at that one scene. If you want my opinion.
Yeah.
So, do you guys think it's representative of the brand in whole then, or do you think it's like another aspect of it? Like, do you think it remains true to the brand, like the games? That makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the whole.
Do you think it does?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole horse carriage chase things definitely reminds me of Revelations, and I think we can all agree on that. Sequence 1, like Ezio just hanging onto the rope when he really should be dead on the snow and everything. So yeah, I think it's definitely I think
the movie's trying so hard to echo the previous Assassin's Creeds more than the latest entries. I think it's starting to become more like Altair and Ezio together in the style of Revelations and AC1. I guess it's trying to channel that kind of perspective, that kind of style, more than the later entries. It feels very. It feels a lot more original or more, faithful to the standards or to the style of the franchise than the later entries of the franchise itself. So that's something that makes me happy. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I also get what you say with Ezio and Altair together. I mean, I definitely know what you mean. The movie's also set around around there 1492. So a lot of the elements we know from there are probably going to be implemented into the film. So yeah. All right.
The architecture too, because it's based on Islamic architecture from Spain at that time used to be called Andalus, so which is an Islamic name when it was a Muslim area or a Muslim-dominated area. So that echoes what we used to see in Assassin's Creed 1 with the mosques and the pillars and the minarets and
Oh, I didn't know that actually, but that sounds interesting.
If you look up Andalus history, you're going to find a lot more that has to do with the Muslim architecture, the Muslim presence in Spain, which is very much similar to the first Assassin's Creed.
That sounds awesome. Right, but do any of you have anything to add to this question, or shall we hop to the next one?
I just had one thing, and it's the idea that Abstergo are now as creepy as they were in the original Assassin's Creed games, because recently we've seen Ergo Entertainment, it's like the game company, like we've seen people like Melanie, Lemay, Super Chipper, Overachiever, and all them lot.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So now we're seeing like Alan Rickon and people like that.
Definitely.
And just the architecture and what they're actually doing, the motivations, it's finally that level of like creepiness and awe that we used to have.
I know what you mean.
Exactly.
Because I must say I'm that kind of person that really enjoys like thrills. I also think that is something that Ubisoft have strongly implemented in Watch Dogs, especially the first one. I know what you mean, Carl, like, especially in the Italian, set in Italy Ezio games with Subject 16 and everything. That was just awesome, with his faded voice and they're lying and everything. I just love that. And those Illuminati pictures and everything in the puzzles. I'm definitely excited to see how they're going to implement that into the film. So, yeah.
I'm also really happy just to go back to Abstergo Industries instead of... I wasn't really a big fan of the whole Abstergo Entertainment aspect of it, where they have it's like where it's very much like almost like a tech company and like bright colors and everything.
Yeah.
I'm happy that we're going back to the industry side of it where everything's cold and like, just dark gray and clinical.
Much more, I think it's called...
Yeah, exactly. I think that the best part... the part that hooked me to the franchise was the idea that there's this mysterious entity called Abstergo, and that they have their hand in everything, and that you're a character who's inside the core of this company, and everything gives you the feeling that you're being part of something that is so mysterious and so scary and so powerful, so high tech and full of secrets and mysteries and the architecture, both the architecture, the atmosphere, the people, what they wear, everything in the games, and here in the movie it's 10 times better because of the the realistic visuals. So I'm happy to be back to that style more than being an entertainment company. And I know that this entertainment company is making movies to the public, but the ulterior motives are to find information for Abstergo Industries. Yeah, but still, I want to be in the company that is doing the main thing, not in a in a side project that is helping in some way or another. So this is definitely a step forward in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. All right. I would like to get to question 2 now. So shall we just get to it?
Sure.
Right. Yeah. So, my second question is, do you think this movie primarily will be a film for fans of the franchise? Or do you think it's a movie that everybody will get to enjoy?
I guess it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean.
I mean, bringing the lore back and bringing Abstergo and the modern day, they've never gave modern day much time in any game than they did in the movie. It's 65% modern day, which is a great percentage, and for me that's a really big thing. And I've been so invested into the lore, and this is what I wanted to see more. First Civilization, Apple of Eden, modern day. This is what I wanted to see, and I think this makes me happy as a fan of the franchise. But at the same time, any newcomer would understand, because there are no returning characters. There will definitely be references, but I guess if someone got so interested, they could always go back and play the games, or at least read about them on any website or book or anything. So it won't be hard for any newcomer to be entertained. And I think it's being made so it can fit both, and I hope it does really great because it deserves it, to be honest.
Definitely. Did you have something to say, Lou?
Oh no, I was just I was saying I think that it's the classic, like we're going to try to make it for both newcomers and existing fans of the franchise, which you can totally, if you execute it well, like they do that in movies all the time whenever they adapt something from source material, like everything comes from either a book or something these days in the film industry. So we'll see how they do with it.
Definitely.
It'll be really interesting.
I say I wouldn't be surprised if the critics, especially Rotten Tomatoes, I'm especially talking about them, if they give the movie a slap in the face. I'm not going to be surprised if it happens. But at the same time, I am pretty optimistic as well, because Macbeth received pretty positive reviews last year. And I also saw on YouTube, I think it was a video like a recap of the summer movies, and where these two movie reviewers, they said they had seen some footage from the movie, and they hadn't played the games, and it didn't look promising at all. So it might be a movie where it's critics versus fans, to be completely honest. But I think all of us, at least here in this podcast, we're gonna have a blast with it, and I just can't wait for that movie.
I'll be really curious to see, because I think one of the reasons that they're making this movie, like one of the reasons, is to broaden the fan base.
Definitely.
And bring new people into the franchise.
Definitely.
I'll be really curious to see, if that, to what extent that happens. Like if they actually do pull a significant number of new people into fan base, or if it ends up being just a movie that just us AC fans see. I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes, but I'm really curious how it turns out.
Definitely. I also think I saw some articles on that back in May when the first trailer came out, saying that Ubisoft, they weren't making the movie to for the sake of
that one executive was like, we don't expect this to make money.
Yeah, definitely.
PR's probably like, why would you say that?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna have a bad box office at all. I think it's gonna make some pretty good money. But I don't know. Again, now that you say that, like how true it is that they're not making this to get money. Like, of course they are. That's what every big company in the world does. That's just basic economy. But
right.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like I do still think that the movie is primarily, to give everyone an awesome experience with Assassin's Creed. But at the same time, they still don't cry about tons of money. So yeah.
Right.
Now, do you have anything to add to this call?
Yeah, I think.
Sorry,
you can go on.
That's okay.
I was gonna say, I hope this movie is the start of like a new chapter for the Assassin's Creed franchise, like almost like a soft reboot, almost like the game. So the guys at Ubisoft can have a look at what the franchise has done well over the years and implement on that, build on it.
I know what you mean. Kind of they are taking a break from the games to see perhaps how this movie universe is gonna work.
Yeah.
Kind of like we also have this growing comic book universe that I am so far not familiar with. But I know you guys probably are, if I'm not mistaken.
That's why you should join the Assassin's Creed TM book club.
Also, last time, Carl, you were on the show, you told me about the Assassin's Creed Black Flag novel, which I still haven't read. But that definitely looks interesting. And as I also said to you, Carl, about the perhaps about how this film universe is going to work. We already have it a bit with the short films we've had, Lineage and Embers. But, so perhaps if they can make an entire live-action universe, that would be awesome. Let's just say it like that. Kind of like, if we look at it from a Star Wars perspective now with Rogue One, like the spin-off Rogue One coming, they're definitely, from what I read, Lucasfilm are also doing that to see how the spin-off series is going to work from the primary Skywalker saga. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how everything works out.
I think it would be really amazing to have the movie universe under the condition that the movie universe will not contradict with the games. Because one thing I hate about movies based on games is when the movie takes a story to a different canon, and then there's the games going in a certain canon, and then there are comics going in another different canon. So it would make it really hard for people to follow the story, and it would be, instead of trying to bring fans into the franchise, would end up fragmenting people, because each type of group of fans will be attracted to a certain type of story told through one medium or another, and the others will follow a different one. It's going to be really hard to follow, like, oh, that's in the movie canon or in the games canon, and I really don't want that to happen. But I think it would be really amazing if they continue the movie series, and if they use the feedback gotten from the movies to improve the future games. Like they said, they would bring the animus from the movie into the games. That would be really amazing, which means there could be a modern day protagonist if they're going to be, using this claw thing. So that's one way to improve the games in the movies. And now that they've brought modern day and gave it the main focus in the movie, I think when you bring that into the games, I think like when people are going to see the movies, they will definitely have to build a modern day story into the games, because if people go back and they start getting into the franchise with the next installment, they're going to be like, okay, what about the present day story? So maybe this is another way for them to introduce fans to the lore, which not many people focus on, which is a great step for me because I care about the lore. So yeah,
definitely. Because just to conclude what you said, I mean, as you said, video game movies in general, I mean, from what I remember, pretty much every video game movie ever made has like not received that well reviews from critics. And as I said, I think the main problem with that is that they base the story of the movie off directly off the games. And I think that is where Ubisoft are definitely doing this right, like making a new story that still ties in the whole game. Because I think that's a big problem with especially open world games. Like, how can you cut a 15-hour game down to a 2-hour movie? That's pretty
exactly. I'm really happy that they
difficult.
did not try to base this on Altair or Ezio or Desmond or anyone, because they will definitely have to make changes, and these changes will create a different canon. So
Definitely. And I think
also,
that would... Oh, sorry.
Well, at the same time, I was thinking, like, keeping things consistent. But I mean, I think that's ultimately a good goal to have, is to keep them all in the same universe. But then it can also create kind of like difficulties and maybe restrictions in storytelling. Like, my number one question that's been nagging at me ever since we saw the first trailer for this is, we live in the AC world right now. We live in a time where you can just go into anybody's blood and see their memories and stuff, right? But they're setting Michael Fassbender, they're setting up Callum Lynch as this very kind of era where only the person who was a direct descendant could go through. And so, like, my main question is, like, when Michael Fassbender's like, what do you want from me? And Marion Cotillard is like, your past, is why she doesn't follow that up with is like, and that's why we took a sample of your blood and we don't need you anymore. And then they're like, just kick him outside of the building. You know what I mean? Because I don't understand why they're, I mean, the plot of the movie seems to lead towards like a revolt of the inmates, basically, at the end of the movie, and they've all been, and they've all, from the bleeding effect, become like super assassins. And it's like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just take their blood and put John from the lab on that? Like, just have him look through the memories. That's the kind of thing that makes me wonder, like, are they actually going to address that, or are they just going to completely gloss over the fact that they don't need Callum, like, beyond like a vial of his blood?
Yeah.
Well, this is kind of, it's more than that though, because what Abstergo are actually doing is trying to get rid of anger, something like that, like stop all this conflict. So like Alan Rickman's, like his purpose, like Luma, you've seen the first 20 minutes, but I don't want to spoil it really, but there is a bit where Rickon's on the television and he's actually talking about the project, so it's not like a secret facility or anything. Like, the public know what they're doing there.
I guess that is a part of it, I guess, but I guess the thing is, like, they're still following the find the piece of Eden in the past thing, right? Like, they're looking for an apple.
Definitely.
And so, like, they don't need Callum for that. And if they're gonna try to resolve his anger issues, I mean, I guess that's interesting, but it doesn't I don't think he needs to have the bleeding effect to turn him into an assassin in order for them to try to treat his anger issues. You know, I don't know. It's gonna be. I mean, obviously I haven't seen the movie. None of us have seen like the full movie to see how it's fully fleshed out. But I mean, that's just one of the perils to me of like trying to keep things in the same universe. It's like, okay, well now, you know, if you want me to really buy into this, you have to acknowledge the fact that he like. You have to make me think it makes sense to put Callum in the Animus and not just some random lab tech with a vial of Callum's blood.
Definitely, I think
that's the kind of thing that's the kind of thing that will bug me and like nobody else that's in the theater.
Yeah, I think we're definitely. I mean, I have never thought about that much until you just said it now. But I think they're definitely not gonna put that on the side in the film. Hopefully not, or
no, I mean, so like in the comics, like you have Charlotte De La Cruz, who is like reliving her ancestry and everything, and they also just gloss over that. Like everything changed after AC3 when they started being when they loosened the restrictions so that they could tell more stories in the modern day, more flexible stories without tying it to one descendant. But then, you know, the flip side is true, is that then that also kind of restricts other logical scenarios. Like there's no reason for the assassins to really like all they need to do is grab a vial of Charlotte's blood in the Assassin's comics, and they don't need her anymore. Instead, they have her as almost like another like Desmond-esque character, and there's no reason given for it. And I'm just kind of like, what is going on? Like, it's kind of weird.
You could say it's because she's in communication with Constance, to be fair.
Well, I've only read the first like 8 issues, so
yeah, well, the idea is that she's got like a link somehow to him.
Okay.
Right.
But did they know that in the beginning, right? Like that's the logical question.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So I'm happy to see the return of like these modern day protagonists, but like honestly, that the fact that you can view memories of other people is a really huge part. Like it's not something you can really gloss over, in my opinion. It's a really big part of the fundamental structure of the modern day.
Nice.
But anyway, sorry, we don't have to keep talking.
All right. I want to get to question 3, but just before we do that, I just want to ask you. You mentioned John in the lab. Is that a specific guy, or?
No.
I mean, I thought.
Like it's like, you know, it's.
Yeah,
I just
I
think
know.
it would be funny, like how it should have ended.
Oh yeah,
You know
I know.
that series on YouTube.
Yeah, I
where
know.
She goes, "What do you want from me? Your past," and that's why I've taken. Like it's literally, it just writes itself. It's like, and that's why we took this blood vial from you. I can give it to Bob in accounting, and he's gonna like fucking look through this instead of us making you a super assassin that's gonna revolt against us. Bye.
Definitely. I mean, I thought of John Standish, but nah, he died or something.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about John from IT.
I know. Yeah, he's in a lab or something.
I'm just talking about some random lab technician whose job it is to
Some random
go
dude.
through this.
Underpaid mathematician.
Just like your role in Assassin's Creed 4, and
Definitely.
like Rogue, and you know, the multiplayer, kind of in a way.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, that was not a specific person.
Nah, that's okay. All right.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, once there was there was a friend who once discussed a movie with me. And he said, "Why did they have the Animus Claw? I mean, what's the purpose of the Animus Claw?" It felt like he said it was a gimmick and it was needless. And I thought it was really great because it would show you. It would show the assassin really reliving their memories, not just dreaming them up. And we actually, it was a long discussion actually, and he said that that why would he need to, since the first Animus could, you're just lying down and the Animus could let you just relive the memories and you could earn the skills without having to move. So you could learn the skills. So why do we have to move now? And how would it look like when he does certain activities? So I was like, well, maybe this type of Animus is a different one where he could just literally see the memories and also interact with the real world. Like he's seeing something like playing a VR game, but also moving in real life and able to talk to other people. And that too is another point that we're yet to get answers for, because, you know, just like how you mentioned how we can relive someone else's memories, and that's an important issue. There's this too, like, why do we have to have this complicated big device when we could simply have a chair? How different is it going to be? And there's another point when you can, like, they said that the regression, the historical segments in the movie are going to be in Spanish. So what happened to the Animus being able to translate the languages? So will Aguilar be speaking instead of like will Kalen be speaking in the tongue of Aguilar in Spanish, or it's gonna be different? I don't know, and what's the purpose of that? But I think they're trying to go back to the basics of the story so that everyone can be familiar with how it evolved. So I don't know if they're gonna bring an explanation or just skip over that.
Definitely, I know what you mean. But yeah, interesting point, and I guess we'll see that in the movie. But I'd like to get to question 3 now, so let's just get to it. Right. My next question here is, how much and what influence from the games, such as events and characters, do you hope to see or hear about in the movie? Perhaps we've already talked a bit about it here in the past questions, but still, any specific things?
I'm super excited to see any First Civilization member.
Definitely.
That would be the most, and I'd love to see what Charlotte Trampling's character is going to be like. She's the chairwoman, we know that, and there's a short scene in the second trailer where he's speaking to, where Alan Rickman is speaking to an unknown figure. I put the picture on my site, and it's definitely Charlotte Trampling's character. So yeah, I like when he's telling her about how the DNA traces back to the 15th century, to the Assassin's Creed, exactly, yeah. So he's speaking to her.
Some kind of Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, definitely, what you mean. No, I mean, I'd say I definitely hope, if we're gonna hear about events and characters, like, from the games, I definitely, undoubtedly hope to hear about, perhaps, Desmond Miles. Hear that name maybe once in the present day.
Oh, really?
Perhaps. I mean,
That a while.
that
More
would
like Subject 17.
yeah, Subject 17. Or even maybe the legendary Subject 16, which we haven't heard in a while. We haven't heard anything from him in a while. I mean, I know he's dead and everything, but still.
I don't know. I think personally, I don't expect. I think if you lay too many, kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge references, like if you lay it on too heavy in the movie, it starts to alienate the people who are new to the franchise.
I know what you mean. Definitely.
So I don't really expect to see a ton of references outside of maybe some small visual ones, like you see some of the older assassins. You see like Connor's bow, right?
And
like some
Ezio's
other
smoke
weapons,
bombs
just kind of like visually
Edward's
there,
pistols
but
and
you don't
everything.
need to be like, oh, I wonder if that's an assassin bow, or it could just be a bow if you don't know
I
the
know what you
history
mean.
of it. Yeah.
I mean, I think I might have talked about that on the show earlier, but considering it's set in, I think me and Charbel, we talked about that last episode. Considering that it is around 1492, I mean, I think that would be for the fans if Ezio's name is mentioned or something. That maybe, have you heard about that guy in Italy doing that and that? That would, I think, that would be. I'd like to see that. Let's just say it like that.
I think they could do that without having to make people feel alienated. I mean, they could just mention him like, yeah, there was an assassin called Ezio, the legendary Ezio Auditore, and for any person, it's gonna be like new information, and there won't be anything linked to that, but other than the fact that he's an assassin. But for us, we're gonna know, oh, that's the Ezio Auditore, or like, Marion Cotillard character, Dr. Sophia Ricken would mention, we don't want this another failure like Subject 16, something like that. It's like people are gonna know there was a Subject 16 and it failed somehow. He died or whatever, but to the general public, it won't be such a big deal.
I definitely
a
know
lot of
what
it's
you
in the
mean.
execution. I agree. You can do it in a way that's not that doesn't alienate people, I think.
Definitely.
I'm not sure if I really want to see Ezio in the movie. I don't mind a little, like a drop, like a name or anything, but if like you actually see someone else being Ezio, like a lookalike, for example, with a different voice, like it's just gonna depress.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it would only be Roger Craig Smith with contact lenses and a ton of makeup and an expensive wig that would make that. But yeah, I wouldn't like unless.
I know, that's a perfect example of how Ezio was taken and changed.
Yeah, like it's Roger Craig Smith that's Ezio, or Ezio is not Ezio.
Or Francesco Rondez with Roger Craig Smith's voiceovers.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Also, no, that's the thing, right? Like, if it's just like if they do put like Ezio in the movie, it's if you do it just as like a small cameo where there's not a whole lot of like actual acting required, like just do it with an Ezio lookalike and dub it over with Roger Craig Smith's voice.
Absolutely.
Right? Like they did that in the PlayStation. Do you remember that PlayStation commercial? It was like for Michael or whatever, and like
Michael?
it talks about. Yeah, it was a really well received commercial. Basically, it's like a whole bunch of video game characters, like live action video game characters, chatting around in a bar scene together. So you had like Cole from Infamous, and then Nathan Drake, and like all of these cases, they use people who look like the characters, and then they dub it over with the voice actors. And near the end, you have Ezio walk out and say, "When the Templars murdered my family," and it's Roger Craig Smith's it's Roger Craig Smith voice with an Ezio body like person. Like if all you need is like a cameo and not like a ton, like if it's not like a serious dramatic scene where he needs to give a monologue or something, like just throw the body in there and have Roger Craig Smith dub it over. But once you start, if you actually include him as like a main character or a significant side story, like side character in your movie, at that point it's like you kind of need to recast him, and then you'll have a different voice, and then that starts to kind of ruin the continuity, and maybe for some of the fans, unless you get someone who's really fucking good.
I know what you mean.
I think that's the two ways you go about it.
I mean, I'd also say, as Carl also said, I just want a name drop then. Maybe if you heard about Ezio, that guy in Italia. The Templars have been severely weakened because of that man alone. I definitely just want that, but just to get some more Ezio stuff in here, I'd say if I would want an Ezio cameo, it could perhaps be a cameo where he doesn't say anything, and just is badass assassinating a ton of people. I say I'd rather want that in maybe another movie, a movie sequel, perhaps.
Yeah.
And regarding movie sequels, do any of you have anything to add to this question? Because if not, let's hop to my fourth and final question.
I think it would be really interesting to have a sequel, because we've heard Michael Fassbender talking about it, and he says he's definitely interested in doing more movies. So if they're going to continue with the idea that every movie is going to have 65% modern day, Michael Fassbender could still play Callum Lynch, and someone else could play the historical characters. So
Definitely.
It would still work. It would still be amazing, and yeah.
Definitely. Because my fourth and final question, which we'll just get to now, is: do you hope to see Assassin's Creed movie sequels after the one that's coming out later this month?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think we can all four agree on that.
Well, I'm personally kind of just not even thinking very much about sequels. I'm just like, please don't suck, please don't suck, please don't suck. Like, let's just get through
I know what you mean.
the one movie first, and then I'll get excited about sequels. Because I don't think it's not going to be easy to make a good movies are not easily made. I don't know.
Definitely.
I'm really hopeful. I would love for this first movie to be amazing. Everything right now seems to point that I think it'll be at least a good movie, if not a great one. And then I would be happy to see sequels. But I think the main focus for me right now is I'm just praying to God that this movie does not just bomb, like, critically and commercially, you know?
I know what you mean. I mean, I'd love. I mean, at the same time, I know what you mean, Loom. I just want to focus on this movie for now, and then maybe focus on sequels afterwards. But I would love a sequel, definitely. Maybe also, as we talked about modern day, I would love perhaps to see an Assassin's Creed movie, perhaps only set in the modern day, because I think that is something that would definitely be innovative for the Assassin's Creed series, like having a story only set in modern day.
I don't know, mate. I feel like the purpose is to go backwards for a reason. Like, we're looking for information in the past so that we can benefit the future.
Definitely. I know what you mean.
I think it'd be an interesting thing to see, like, an only modern day movie, but it does kind of go against the core fundamentals of the series, and I don't. I don't think it would do.
prefer a game in modern day, a game set entirely in modern day. But I think the movie is doing 65% modern day, so it's already mainly about modern day.
I know what you
And
mean.
I think if they continue like that with the sequels, it would be really amazing. But I wonder if the next movies are going to follow the same pattern of the games. Like maybe this movie isn't going to show the first civilization. Maybe the next one is going to be just like Assassin's Creed 2, where we're going to see the first glimpse of, say, Minerva or Juno or any new character.
I think
and
that's the way to
gradually
do
they
it.
build up to something.
Definitely. I mean,
So as not to alienate people.
I
Yeah, it's
definitely
a
know
little
what you
much
mean.
if you start throwing in first civ. In addition to the animus, in addition to the pieces of Eden, that's. I think it would be smart of them to follow the model of AC1 and AC2, where you don't show anything about first civ stuff until a sequel.
I'm
Definitely.
pretty sure there aren't any first civ people in this one because I actually asked this question to Amar Azazia, the head of content, and he said he doesn't think there are any in the film, so I'm just going off that.
I think that
Definitely.
makes a lot of sense. I'd be surprised if I saw any first civ.
I didn't
I mean,
think
I'd
they're
probably
going to go
freak
that
out.
far.
Yeah, just Juno pops up at the end.
Definitely.
Ah!
Yeah, I mean,
Lost my
Walks up
dreams.
Salma's body.
I think something that could perhaps be set up in the movies. Now that all of you are saying like 65% modern day, 35% past, I think something in the modern day that's like a tipping point at the moment is the return of Juno, and I guess we can all agree on that. I'm definitely excited to see how that's going to play out, possibly in a game installment someday. I'm thinking,
You mean if they don't just resolve it in the comics?
yeah,
I truly hope not.
I truly hope not. Yeah, I
Oh.
mean, I'd love
I don't know.
maybe.
They seem to be going. I don't know.
Yeah, like at least just drop the Phoenix Project idea. Maybe the Phoenix Project could fail, but Juno would still exist. But I truly hope that she doesn't end up getting deleted or she's some sort of file or something. You know, I totally don't want that to happen.
Let me just put it this way: I don't have a lot of faith in Ubisoft to be resolving modern day plot lines very well because they don't have a very good track record. If you remember, like the whole impetus for like the modern day plot in AC1 was Abstergo was looking for an apple of Eden so that they could put it up in the Abstergo eye, right, and control like all of civilization. You remember how they resolved that? They resolved it in a fucking email in AC3 where it's like, oh, I guess they don't have an apple anymore, so much for that plot thread.
Yeah, I mean, actually,
and now they're saying, oh, and now the Phoenix Project, which we started in the games, is just gonna not appear in any more games because we're gonna resolve it like in the comics, and it's just like, what? Why?
I mean, I am perhaps on my comic end not very strong, and actually, just to let you know that, Loom, I actually still have to play Assassin's Creed 1. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, but definitely, I mean, I definitely like to see in a game, perhaps. I mean, I know what you mean that modern day, there are a lot of loose ends, let's just say it like that, and I think Syndicate is an absolute ideal example of that. I honestly think it fell flat on its face compared to what we all expected. Like, I had hoped it would be playable and everything, and then it really just falls flat on its face. But I definitely like to see maybe perhaps this epic Juno event, global destruction thingy and such, and they maybe even have to go to the past to find something that'll stop her, like find an ancestor or something.
Civilization times, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's maybe just where I like time travel movies a bit too much, but it could be awesome if, let's say, the Animus has unexplored features where it actually has the ability to change history. That could be pretty awesome, perhaps, like...
Or maybe a piece of Eden that can alter time in one way or another.
Definitely.
Oh, I don't know. No.
No.
Once you open up to actual like time travel and not because the Animus is not strictly speaking time travel. Like you're not creating new timelines. You're just reliving what happened. And so introducing something like that would kind of fundamentally mess with that. But anytime you introduce time travel in any sort of franchise or like series, it just opens up way too many like plot holes and things.
Of course, yeah.
And like
I definitely know what you mean.
It's just absolutely. It would blow up the entire framework of everything that's been laid down, I think.
But I think the idea alone that perhaps Juno has destroyed the entire world or something, and only a small group of assassins are alive, and They use an ancestor to find this, as Rhino said, this piece of Eden that can perhaps alter.
So you basically want Days of Future Past, like with.
Yeah, that's
Assassin's
definitely one of the. I mean, that is one of my absolute favorite movies, and sometimes when I go to bed, I think, oh, Ezio goes back in time, and I mean, I absolutely love that movie, and
So Marvel Comics has these like what if stories, which aren't really canon.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, it's like, oh, what if the Venom symbiote from like Spider-Man found its way onto like, I don't know, it's like J. Jonah Jameson or like something really crazy like that, and they play out the story.
This could work.
Like
this could work.
Like if they did something like that, where it's like, okay, this is non-canon, but this is just kind of us fucking around, like a spin-off type thing, like.
Yeah, I mean, you know, X-Men Days of Future Past.
I don't think you can make it canon.
Yeah, I mean, X-Men Days of Future Past, you know, that was also just to tie up all the loose, fucked up ends in the X-Men universe. That really just an excuse for making the bad movies irrelevant. But yeah, I mean,
X-Men also takes place in a fantastical comic book universe, whereas Assassin's Creed is very strictly grounded in science and reality. And I know, like, yeah, it's like, oh, genetic mutation is a thing, but it's like, not like this, not like this. Like,
definitely. Perhaps maybe in an alternate reality DLC, like we saw in Assassin's Creed 3. We could see some time travel stuff.
Crazy fever dream.
Yeah, I heard you said that, Rhino, because it would definitely make more sense there. I think
it makes sense if it's like if we go back to first civilization times and we see Minerva's eye device, which can view possibilities in history. So we could actually play the possibility when Desmond kept Juno imprisoned and the world was destroyed. So,
definitely.
In that case, we're not even gonna know which reality is the real reality because all of them are just possibilities. So any of them could be a true reality. Any of them could be a real path for some version based on certain choices. So. I know it's gonna be like French series, and I actually love that series so much. But the alternate universes idea would be cool. I mean, Minerva did speak of those, and I don't know if it could work in a CGI movie, or maybe in a spin-off game, or maybe in a comic book. But
or fan fiction.
Yeah, fan fiction.
Fan fiction, of course. Yeah.
I know what to spend my evening on.
No, I think it could be cool. Like,
yeah, I mean,
I would personally want the main series to be on a solid track before they start doing crazy spin-offs or anything. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's non-canon material anyhow because it just confused everything. I mean, the French comics, I can't read them because I know it'll confuse the lore I've got in my own mind right now.
Right.
I know.
Actually, if you read the French comics now, they're going to be less contradicting. That's what they said about constellations.
That's alright then.
You'll be less contradicting. A+.
Yeah, that's because it's a new character. It's not Desmond. It's not anyone. It's a different protagonist. So there won't be anything that would conflict with any events that we know. It's just gonna be a new story, pretty much like how the movie seems to be. You know.
Okay.
So I read the first three, and like with characters like Jonathan Hawk, and then like Lucy Stillman was a completely different person in the French comics. And at that point, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm just gonna stick with canon.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But also just to one thing you said, Loomer. Yeah, Days of Future Past is definitely something that has been mentioned at least 50 times on this podcast by now, I think.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. That's hilarious. Okay.
Yeah, all right. But do any of you have anything to add to this question, or shall we hop to some of your questions that I think I know some of you have?
I just want to say that I hope that the stories do not end up. I hope the comics will be some sort of medium that adds to the story, that adds new characters, or shows what's going on behind the scenes between games, or introduce new people and conclude their own arcs within the comics themselves, but not to take out stories from the games themselves and then bring them to comics, because not everybody who plays games is interested in comics. So I mean, I do read them just because I want to know the story, but only because I have to, only because I have to understand the story. So for me, I'd rather have a game that shows me the story unfold on screen with cutscenes and spoken dialogues, not with recordings, not with files, not with a website that has a code, not with a comic book, not with a novel, just on the game itself with the old school cutscenes and well-directed moments. Yeah, that's how I want to see the story,
Yeah, maybe plot arcs should be confined to one medium. You shouldn't start the Phoenix Project plot arc in games and then end it in comics. I
That's it.
think they need to.
I mean,
they
also-
need to just stay in their mediums.
I mean, that's the
Yeah, I mean, okay, mention it in the comics, but just don't end it in the comics.
Right,
Don't make the
exactly,
conclusion we're waiting
exactly.
for.
yeah, that would be like ending the entire Assassin's Creed tale in a comic book, and I'm that kind of guy that has really always been a slobby reader. So yeah, I prefer visual stuff instead of or like interactive stuff or whatever you call it. I prefer movies and games. Let's say it like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Now, do any of you have any questions? Because let's get to those then.
Well, mine was pretty much we've discussed
Oh,
most
okay.
of what I would have asked about, so I don't really have much
Okay.
to ask.
What about you, Rhino?
How do you guys feel about the idea that future Assassin's Creed games could somehow allow different possibilities and that you can tell 1,000 stories instead of one? I've written a lengthy article on my website, the Codex, and I actually sent it on the Twitter chat that we made. And I don't know if you guys read it, but I think there are ways where this. I mean, most of everyone I talked to did not agree with this, and they wanted a strict confined story without any different possibilities, because that contradicts with how the Animus works, that contradicts with everything about the franchise and what we've learned about synchronization. So what do you guys think of that? So how do you think this could work, or what alternatives do you have for this system?
So I think it's an interesting idea, but like one of the main reasons I play Assassin's Creed is to learn about a certain time period. So like, I know each time it's going to be something different. Like I didn't know anything about the Italian Renaissance before playing AC2, for example. But if we jump between different ones, I feel like it's just going to be like a snippet of the time period. We're not going to get like full experience of what was going on. Like I think it'd be cool to see more than one. Like I mean, you could say Unity. We saw what was it? You know, the bit with Jack de Malay and his friend who was killed. Well, that was another time period, isn't it? And like them games, the Helix games, if we're allowed to unlock them, then that would give us a few more. But I still like the idea of one time period per game, then the modern day.
Definitely.
Actually,
So
that's not what I was asking.
Sorry,
I mean, it's good points. It's good points. But what I meant that the interview with Ubisoft French CCO, when he said that when you play a game, the character could make different choices. Like for example,
okay.
you could kill somebody, or you could not kill them, or you could fail the mission or succeed it, and this would lead to different outcomes. How would that work with synchronization?
I would.
I'm with
Regarding that, I would love like you know, an Assassin's Creed that is more of the, I think, what you call a story-based game, a storyteller, like also Heavy Rain and Life is Strange, if you guys know about those, like where every decision affects the outcome. That would be definitely interesting.
like Sonic, where you can either kill or not kill a target.
Yeah, definitely.
Like in the past.
See, that's the thing. You've either died or you haven't died. In the past, it's like an established fact.
It would violate, in my view, like a very, and this is probably what the other people told you too, but it just violates like the fundamental premise of Assassin's Creed to me.
Definitely.
It's like, it just blows it all up completely.
But I also
if you
think it's
introduce
definitely
kind of
something
choice
that
factor.
could add a total different level of, because I'm not saying I'm like a cry guy, but I definitely like emotional endings sometimes, and I think it could add a whole new level of emotion in the story.
No, that's why we have Darby.
Darby? But yeah, I mean,
Darby's already got that covered.
yeah, I don't think I've heard of
No,
that, but I think because I feel like I said the Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag ending, where we definitely all were silenced, let's just say it like that. I think that's the only AC ending that has been, like, in my opinion, really emotional. I mean, Revelations was emotional too, but still it ends. The final shots are, I know what we need to do in the present day. I would love, like, you know, different endings. One where everybody survives, perhaps one where some characters are dead and maybe it's just Wei and maybe everybody's dead. It would be interesting.
Story that, like a set story in this franchise. Like I don't mind like Dishonored or Deus Ex or something like that, where you've got like an optional ending. But Assassin's Creed for me, it's very story based. These different events affect affect the characters, and that's how you get to the end game. For me, anyhow.
Yeah, I just don't think. I mean, it's like Carl said. Like some franchises are well suited for like Deus Ex and like Telltale games and stuff for making decisions, having those decisions affect things down the line, and having branching storylines and everything. But like to me, Assassin's Creed is 100% not that.
Definitely,
and the definition more than most other franchises. It is we have a single storyline because it takes place like in our world.
Definitely,
like it is our timeline, and if you suddenly introduce branching storylines into it, you just blow the whole thing up. It's the equivalent of electing Trump, like as your president. Just,
I know what you mean.
Just blow it all up, do whatever. Like you know.
I know what you mean. I think, I also think, you know, the whole, as you said, storyteller game things. That's something that's definitely doesn't work with open world games. But, I mean, there has been some open world games where, I don't know if you guys ever played Grand Theft Auto 4, but there, like, that was the 3 final missions. You could choose different endings there. Like, it was one set story, but the ending would play out differently on, like, what opportunity you chose to do something.
Just like Fallout, that, perhaps. Just like with Witcher, they have multiple endings in their open world games.
Yeah, I mean, we could perhaps maybe, you know, let's just say, as most games have 12 sequences, let's say maybe something happens in sequence 11, you meet with someone before sequence 12, like in the opening, and he says you can either do that or that, and then it's really up to the player, what do I want the most for my character, and then all depending on what you choose, sequence 12 plays out in 2 different ways. That would perhaps be better than having one whole game where it's, oh, this guy got killed, that happens now, and every sequence, really. I don't know
understand that idea, and I respect the opinion. I just 100% disagree with it. It's not like those other games like The Witcher and Fallout are not set in they don't have the same narrative framework that the Assassin's Creed series has, where the whole premise is that you cannot change history. Things happen a certain way, and that is it.
That's the thing, but
it just
that's at the same time, I think that's really just a question of historians doing a good job, perhaps. But I know what you mean.
Yeah, but the whole thing is that when you're reliving it through the animus, historically, you're seeing it as it actually happened.
I know.
Yeah, regardless of what historians say, and that's actually a selling point in a lot of ways, right?
Once
there happens, that's it. It's an established fact. You can't change it.
By definition, what you see is the truth, and because it's hard coded in the DNA.
I know what you mean.
So, but yeah, no, I understand the appeal of it. I just think it would just fundamentally. It does not agree with.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
What the series is. But yeah.
Right.
I'm very adamant about this.
I know what you mean. That's almost like a topic for another episode. But yeah, I'll definitely keep that in mind then. But yeah, I think we just lost Rhino the Bouncer. But I think this is also getting pretty lengthy. So if any of you guys have anything to say or ask now, let's just do that, because I think we should slowly wrap this up then.
I just have one question, if that's alright. It's not about Assassin's Creed movie, but it's just about Assassin's Creed Heresy. I was wondering if any of you guys have picked that up.
I haven't read that yet.
Funny you should mention it, Colin, because Assassin's Creed Heresy is the December book for the Assassin's Creed Book Club.
Is it really?
And everybody should pick it up and read it and join the discussion on January 1st at the Loomer YouTube channel.
Definitely.
It's a wonderful novel. It's amazing. It's really.
So I will be reading it this month, but I haven't read it yet.
Nice.
We'll be looking forward to that, Loomer. Yeah. Assassin's Creed Heresy. I mean, I've seen a bunch of stuff with it. It's I don't know anything about it though. Yeah.
It's cool.
That's awesome. Right.
I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've only heard good things about it.
Nice.
Yeah. By the way, have you guys looked at the tracks of the Assassin's Creed movie soundtrack?
I don't want to do that much. I feel like that might be spoiling it too much, as Loomer is.
I try not to, but obviously I have to post stuff for the community, so I try to have a quick read of it. But there's nothing huge spoilery, but still, I felt like I shouldn't have been looking at that track list, really.
Yeah, I
But
feel like
generally,
with
Yeah,
we track
the final
this.
track name was interesting. The final track name was really interesting to me because it's sort of, I don't know, I don't want to say anything that spoils it for you guys, so take a look at it if you want. So,
yeah, because that's the thing I feel like with the most movie
Much
soundtracks. You know, it definitely
you're welcome.
in about 20 tracks or so, the titles they kind of wrap up they kind of quick summarize the film. So I mean, there are some movies I saw, like, if I had listened to the soundtrack before or looked at the track names, I would definitely have been like, I saw that one coming.
Yeah. It might not spoil like specific spoilery bits, but you can get a feel for the entire arc of the movie usually. Like oh, and then this broad thing is gonna happen, and then this is gonna happen probably. And
Definitely.
yeah, that's why I try to avoid the track
Kind of sucks.
lists as well.
Yeah, there wasn't much like someone's gonna die or something like that, but
Right.
it was, yeah, it was more like, you know, a sentence, like someone spoke something and they used the sentence, potentially the sentence that someone is gonna say, and it could indicate what's gonna happen after that, or the name based on a certain things, like, you know, so you can kind of get an idea by reading the titles. So yeah.
So
Definitely.
speaking about the Assassin's Creed movie soundtrack, are you expecting like a variation of Ezio's family in this film, then?
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear the da 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 once. I almost hope they're gonna throw it in there for the fans, you know, because I think also in the it was the Syndicate theme. We also have Ezio's family there, and what is it? Pretty much every
Well,
yeah.
Unity as well. Unity
Yeah.
uses bits of it. So I mean, ever since Unity, and also in Rogue, of course, but like ever since 2014, they said they want they're repurposing Ezio's family to represent the Assassin's Brotherhood. So I would personally, someone even mentioned that Jesper Kid is mentioned in the IMDb list for the movies,
Oh, wow.
and I think that's generally not that he's actively contributing towards it, but because they use part of Ezio's family, they have to credit him because he wrote the original composition. So I would, if that's true, if he's in the IMDb, I would not be surprised if they did the same thing for the movie. If they worked the theme into one or two tracks.
I mean, that's also with
to be honest, I think there could be some sort of reference to Ezio's family, because there was once on Snapchat, there was a preview by IGN. It had the movie poster, the second one where Aguilar is standing at the tip of a building, and not the one where he's
I
the
remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and they had some sort of video like presentation where the birds would fly and he would like move in a parallax way,
Yeah.
and it had a variation of the Ezio's family song, but that was the only time when we've heard it, so I'm not sure if it's gonna be part of the movie. But you said that Jesper Kid is credited somewhere, so they could be, you know, maybe just a small excerpt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I also think Ezio's family. Also, if we look at pretty much every of Devon Supertramp's Assassin's Creed parkour videos, there's also a bit of Ezio's family there. Also, the latest one, if you guys saw that, with
Right.
Damien Walters.
Yeah, but I mean that's just like a fan thing. I mean he uses part of the Assassin's Creed 3 theme in that as well, and he's used parts of the AC3 theme. It's the dun 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 dun. Like
Yeah.
okay, like I'm off key, but you know what I'm talking about. Like he uses that in some of his other cosplay parkour videos
Yeah.
too. That's not like an indication at all of
He doesn't
what
make
this
songs,
movie
he
soundtrack
brings
uses.
on songs as well. It's
Yeah.
not like in the song himself.
Yeah, so like his videos are not going to be an indication of whether or not the movie uses it.
Absolutely.
Those are going to be
That's not
totally
what I'm
separate.
proposing either. But,
Oh, okay, sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
Just
that's
wanna-
okay. Right, but do any of you have anything or else, or should we wrap this up? Because I think we have discussed enough. But, yeah.
I'm good.
All right then. I want to then thank everyone for watching and listening to this special edition episode of the Memory Corridor, and I hope every single one of you enjoyed listening to me, Cole96, Loomer, and RinoTheBouncer discuss this topic as much as we enjoyed discussing it. To stay up to date on everything the Memory Corridor and more things Assassin's Creed, like my Assassin's Creed gaming photography I call Creedography, and at the current moment also some Watch Dogs 2 photography, links to my Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat will be in the description below should you be interested in checking that out, along with links to each guest's social media pages, as I said in the beginning of the episode. And like I also said in episode 2 last time, Snapchat, or episode 4, sorry, these are my lines fucking with me. But yeah, Snapchat is not necessarily AC related, but Snapchat is Snapchat. So yeah. Now, if anyone has any feedback or topic ideas for the podcast here, feel more than free to leave them in the comment section below, as it probably will go a long way in the process of making these episodes. Not only for myself, but possibly for you wonderful listeners as well. Now, once again, thanks times infinity for watching and listening, everybody. And I hope to see all of you again for future episodes. And until those come out, stay safe, everyone, and keep this absolutely a magnifico community what it is. And finally, also huge thanks to today's 3 guests for guest starring on the episode. I hope all of you enjoyed discussing this topic with me, and I hope to see you as guests another time. And it was an absolute blast having you, and thanks once again.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for having us, and we'll definitely look forward to seeing you again and maybe doing another episode. And keep doing this amazing job you're doing with your podcast, and good luck.
I appreciate those words. And that sums it up for this episode of The Memory Corridor. Stay safe and active, everyone. See you later, Assassins. Peace.